Welcome to my channel, The World of Science Fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
The floor trembled, not gently, like the world was deciding whether to crack open. The Broken Stars bar sat directly above the arena, and when something heavy hit the sand below, the glasses rattled, the lights swung, and everyone pretended not to notice. Ethan Ward felt the vibration through his boots, through the stool, through the drink he couldn't afford, but ordered anyway because he needed to forget the hydraulic line that had nearly killed him 6 hours ago. He was covered in grease, black streaks across his forearms, smudged on his jaw, under his nails. His shirt was the kind mechanics wore when they'd given up on looking like anything other than what they were. Tired, underpaid, trying to hold machines together with tape and prayer. The bar was loud, too loud, packed with bodies that smelled like sweat and cheap alcohol, and the metallic tang of blood that drifted up from the arena vents. Red lights, blue lights, smoke machines pumping haze into the air so thick you couldn't see the exit until you were already leaving. Ethan squeezed through the crowd, shoulder first, trying to reach the bartender who kept ignoring him. Someone shoved, he shoved back. His elbow caught something solid, a shoulder, maybe a rib cage, and he muttered, "Sorry," without looking. The music stopped. Not literally. The bass still pounded, the drums still hammered, but everything else went quiet. Conversations died mid-sentence. People stepped back, creating a circle of empty space around him. Ethan turned. The woman standing there was taller than him by half a head, red-skinned, deep crimson marked with darker scar lines and old burns, blade cuts crossing her arms like a map of violence. Her teeth were metal, actual metal, filed sharp, glinting under the red lights. Her eyes were pale, almost colorless, and fixed on him with the kind of focus predators use right before they struck. Her cup hit the floor, cheap plastic, bouncing once, rolling to a stop at Ethan's boot. She didn't say anything, just looked at him. Then her fist came up, slow and deliberate, cocking back at the shoulder. Ethan's mouth opened to say something, an apology, an excuse, anything, but his throat locked. He couldn't move, couldn't think. Just watched the crimson fist start forward, knuckles already bloodied from something earlier, and knew with perfect certainty that it was going to break his jaw. The punch never landed. 4 hands caught it mid-air, 2 locked around the wrist, fingers digging into tendon and bone. 2 more braced the elbow, stopping all forward momentum with a precision that made the motion look choreographed. The scarred woman froze, confused, her face twisting as she tried to pull back and found she couldn't. Sierra stepped into the light. She was shorter than the Gladiator, blue skin, darker than sky, lighter than midnight. 4 arms, each one lean and corded with muscle that didn't show off but was there, coiled and ready. Her hair was tied back tight, exposing a face that would have been beautiful if it wasn't so focused, so utterly calm in a way that made everything around her feel dangerous. Golden eyes, not metaphorically, actually gold. The iris reflecting light like molten metal. She wore a tank top and cargo pants. Nothing fancy, nothing that said, "I used to be someone." She leaned close to the Gladiator, still holding her fist, and spoke quietly. Not a whisper, everyone heard it. "You swung at the wrong one." Her smile came slowly, sharp, predatory. "My turn." The crimson-skinned Gladiator's eyes widened. Recognition flickered there, then fear. She yanked her arm back, hard, and Sierra let her go. The woman stumbled, caught herself, and then vanished into the crowd without a word. People melted out of her way, watching, waiting for something else to happen. Sierra stood there a moment longer, her 4 hands relaxing, flexing once. Then she turned to Ethan, and the gold eyes softened just slightly. "You okay?" Ethan's heart was still hammering. Yeah. Good." She grabbed his wrist with one hand, gentle but firm. "We're leaving." "I didn't even get my drink." "You don't need it." She pulled him toward the exit, weaving through the crowd with an ease that suggested she'd done this before. Navigated hostile spaces, extracted herself before things escalated. Ethan followed, still processing, still trying to understand what had just happened. Behind them, the music came back. Conversations resumed. The world reset itself like nothing had occurred. But on the balcony above the main floor, behind the smoked glass of the VIP section, someone was watching. Voron sat with his fingers steepled, his lips curved in a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He was human, or close enough. Pale, sharp-featured, wearing a suit that cost more than most people on this station made in a year. He leaned forward slightly, his gaze tracking Sierra as she disappeared through the exit. One of his guards, a hulking figure with cybernetic implants running up his neck, leaned in. "Want me to stop them?" Voron shook his head slowly. "No, let them go." "Sir? I know who she is." His smile widened. "And now I know where to find her." The alley behind the broken stars smelled like piss and rust. Steam vented from pipes running along the walls, hissing in rhythmic bursts, and somewhere nearby, machinery groaned under strain. The lighting was bad. Single flickering bulb casting shadows that moved wrong. Sierra shoved Ethan against the wall. Not hard, but firm enough to make him stop walking. Her four hands pressed into his chest, his shoulders, pinning him without hurting him. "What the hell was that?" Ethan said. "You bumped Kara." "Who?" "Kara, former arena champion. Killed 11 people in 3 months before they retired her." Sierra's voice was flat, factual. "Red-skinned, metal teeth. She doesn't like being touched." "I didn't mean to." "Doesn't matter what you meant. You're lucky I was there." Ethan shoved her hands away, stepping forward. "You promised. No more fights." Sierra's jaw tightened. "She tried to break you." "I don't care. I want a normal life, Sierra. That's why we left. That's why we came here." He gestured vaguely at the alley, the station, the world around them. "So we could be normal." Sierra's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Something bitter and old. "Normal isn't for people like me." "Bullshit. Look at me, Ethan." She held up her forearms, spreading them wide. "Look at what I am. I'm not built for normal. I'm built for this." She gestured back toward the bar, toward the arena below. "And you knew that when you married me. I married you because I love you. You married me to get off-world. Let's not pretend it was poetry." The words hit harder than the punch would have. Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it, because she wasn't entirely wrong. He'd been stuck on a dying colony, working in a refinery that was slowly poisoning everyone who breathed its air. Sierra had been there on contract security detail for a cargo shipment. They'd talked. She'd offered him a way out. He'd said yes, but somewhere between then and now, it had become real. "Maybe that's how it started," he said quietly. "But it's not how it is now." Sierra's face softened, just slightly. One of her hands reached up, fingers brushing his cheek, tracing the line of grease still smudged there. "I know." A spotlight snapped on, bright, blinding. Ethan threw up a hand, squinting, and Sierra immediately shifted position, putting herself between him and the light source. Her stance changed, lower, balanced, ready. Footsteps, multiple. Heavy boots on metal grating. Voron stepped into view, flanked by 4 guards. 2 carried shock batons, 2 carried rifles. Voron himself walked with a kind of confidence that came from owning everything in sight and knowing no one could stop him. His smile was the same one from the balcony, amused, calculating, cruel. "Sierra," he said, voice smooth, "my lost champion, and now married to a human." He looked at Ethan, then back at her. "How poetic." Sierra didn't move. "Voron, you disappeared 3 years ago, middle of a winning streak. Left me with a very disappointed audience." He clasped his hands behind his back, pacing slowly. "But I'm a forgiving man. I understand the need for sabbaticals. I'm retired." "Are you?" Voron's smile widened. "Because from what I just saw, you haven't lost a step. Walk away." "I can't do that." He pulled something from his pocket, a metal collar, sleek and black, dotted with tiny lights. He tossed it at Sierra's feet. It landed with a heavy clink, rolling once before stopping. "One fight, you and your husband. Win, and you both walk free. I'll even pay you." Ethan stepped forward. "We're not..." Sierra's hand shot out, blocking him. "Against who? Does it matter?" Voron tilted his head. "You've fought worse. Not with him in the arena. Then train him quickly." Voron gestured, and one of the guards stepped forward, dropping a data tablet at their feet. "Tomorrow night, main event, refuse, and I'll make sure your husband's work permit gets revoked. You'll both be deported back to whatever hole you crawled out of." He turned, already walking away. See you in the sand, champion. The guards followed. The spotlight cut out. The alley returned to its grimy, flickering normalcy. Sierra stood there, staring at the collar. Ethan knelt, picking up the tablet. The screen lit up automatically, displaying an arena roster. His name was there, Ethan Ward, human, unarmed. Below it, Sierra's name, Sierra Kalen Vadran, armed. And below that, a second silhouette, labeled Special Participant, Human. What does that mean? Ethan asked. Sierra didn't answer. She was staring at the collar, her four hands clenched into fists. Sierra. It means, she said slowly, he's not just putting us in a fight. He's making a spectacle. Of what? She looked at him, and her golden eyes were hard. Of watching you die. The apartment was small. One room, a sleeping mat on the floor, a kitchenette that barely functioned, and a window overlooking the arena's outer hull. Through the glass, you could see the glow of advertisements, the flicker of holographic displays announcing tomorrow's matches, the endless stream of people moving through the station's veins. Ethan sat on the mat, the tablet still in his hands. Sierra paced, four arms moving independently, one brushing through her hair, one tapping her thigh, two clasped behind her back. She moved like a caged animal, restless and lethal. We could run, Ethan said. Where? Anywhere. Another station. Another planet. He owns the docking authority. We wouldn't make it off the platform. Sierra stopped pacing, turning to face him. And even if we did, he'd send hunters. People like Kara. People worse than Kara. So we fight. You don't know how to fight? Then teach me. Sierra laughed, bitter and sharp. In one night? You think I can turn you into something that survives an arena in one night? I survived a refinery explosion. I survived a cargo bay decompression. I survived you when we first met. He stood, crossing to her. I can survive this. She looked at him for a long moment, her face unreadable. Then one of her hands reached out, grabbing the front of his shirt. You want to know what the arena is? It's not a fight. It's theater. They don't want skill. They want blood. They want fear. They want to see someone break. Her grip tightened. And humans break easy. Then don't let me break. Her jaw worked. Her eyes searched his face, looking for something. Doubt, maybe, or sense. She didn't find it. Okay, she said quietly. Okay. She released his shirt, stepping back. Strip. What? Your shirt. Take it off. I need to see what I'm working with. Ethan pulled off his shirt, suddenly self-conscious. He wasn't out of shape exactly. Mechanics stayed lean from physical work. But he wasn't built like a fighter. Sierra circled him, her four hands moving over his body, pressing into his ribs, his shoulders, testing muscle and bone. You're too stiff, she said. You hold tension in your shoulders. That'll slow you down. I work with my hands. Doesn't matter. In the arena, stiff means dead. She stepped in front of him, her face inches from his. Hit me. What? Hit me, as hard as you can. I'm not going to. Ethan. Her voice was cold. If you can't hit me in training, you won't hit anyone tomorrow. So do it. He hesitated, then swung. She caught his fist with one hand, effortlessly. Too slow, too obvious. You pulled back before you even threw it. She released him. Again. He swung again. Same result. Again. And again. And again. 15 minutes later, Ethan was breathing hard, sweat dripping down his chest, and Sierra hadn't moved from her spot. She caught every punch, blocked every attempt, and her expression never changed. You're thinking too much, she said. Stop trying to hurt me. Just react. I'm trying. No, you're thinking about trying. That's different. She stepped closer and suddenly one of her hands lashed out, slapping him across the face. Not hard, but sharp, stinging. Ethan's hand flew up instinctively, blocking. There, Sierra said. That's what I need. Stop thinking. Just move. They trained until Ethan's arms felt like lead. Sierra taught him how to fall without breaking bones, how to roll with impacts, how to protect his head and throat. She didn't teach him how to win, just how to survive longer. At some point, exhausted, he collapsed onto the mat. Sierra sat beside him, her breathing steady, barely winded. I'm going to die tomorrow, aren't I? Ethan said. Sierra didn't answer immediately. She reached out with one hand, brushing sweat-soaked hair from his forehead. Not if I can help it. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. Ethan closed his eyes. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the station's life support, the distant roar of the arena crowd below. Tomorrow that roar would be for them. Why did you stop fighting? He asked. Sierra's hand stilled. Because I got tired of killing. But you were good at it. Yeah. Her voice was hollow. I was. So what changed? She was quiet for a long time. Then, I watched someone die, someone I didn't want to kill, but the crowd wanted it. Voren wanted it, so I did it. She pulled her hand back, folding all four arms across her chest. And after, I looked up at the stands, at all those people screaming and cheering, and I realized they didn't care. They didn't care that he'd had a family, that he'd been forced into the arena to pay off debt. They just wanted blood. So you left. So I left. She looked at him. And then I met you. Ethan opened his eyes. Worst decision of your life? Her lips curved into a small, sad smile. Ask me tomorrow. The arena was bigger than Ethan had imagined. From above, from the bar, it had seemed manageable. Just a pit of sand and lights. But standing at the gate, looking out at the expanse of it, he felt his stomach drop. 60 meters across. Sand floor, packed hard, stained dark in places where blood hadn't fully washed away. Walls 30 meters high, sheer metal and reinforced glass, impossible to climb. Seating for thousands, packed tight, bodies pressed together, all of them screaming. The noise was physical, a pressure that pushed against his eardrums, made his teeth ache. Spotlights swung overhead, cutting through the haze. Holographic displays floated above the arena, showing close-ups of fighters, stats, betting odds. Ethan's face appeared on one. His name, his species, his odds of survival. Ethan Ward, human. 12-1. Sierra's face appeared beside his. Sierra Kalen, Vadran, 1-3. They're betting on us, Ethan said, his voice barely audible over the noise. They're always betting. Sierra adjusted the straps on her armor. Battered, scavenged pieces of plating covering her chest and shoulders, leaving her arms free. She'd refused the weapons they'd offered. Just stay behind me. Ethan wore a cheap vest, padded but useless against anything sharp. No weapon, no armor, just him. Why am I even here, he asked. If you're the fighter, why put me in the arena? Sierra didn't look at him. Because Voren knows I won't fight at full strength if you're in danger. It's insurance. Against what? Against me walking out of here alive. The gate started to rise, chains rattling, metal grinding against metal. The crowd's roar doubled, tripled, became something inhuman. Ethan's hands were shaking. He clenched them into fists, trying to stop it, but the shaking spread up his arms into his chest. Sierra grabbed his face with one hand, forcing him to look at her. Her golden eyes locked onto his. Listen to me. On the arena, there is no together, only alive and dead. You understand? Then stay alive, Ethan said. Both of us. Her expression softened, just for a second. Then she released him, turned, and walked into the light. Ethan followed. The sand was hot under his boots, almost burning. The crowd's noise became a wall of sound, directionless, overwhelming. He stayed close to Sierra, watching her move, every step deliberate, every glance cataloging threats. Across the arena, 3 gates opened. The first fighter was massive. Easily 3 meters tall, heavy plating bolted directly into his skin, arms ending in blunt clubs instead of hands. His eyes were augmented, glowing red, tracking Sierra with mechanical precision. The lean fighter was lean, fast, covered in scars and tattoos. Twin blades strapped to his forearms, each one serrated and dripping something viscous. Poison, maybe, or just oil to catch the light. The third was Kara, the red-skinned gladiator with metal teeth, her crimson skin catching the arena lights, darker scars running like rivers across her arms. Ethan felt his stomach twist. Kara grinned, her metal teeth catching the light, and pointed directly at him. "You're mine, mechanic," she screamed. The crowd roared approval. Sierra stepped in front of Ethan, all 4 arms spreading wide, creating a barrier. "Stay behind me. I cannot. Stay behind me." A horn blared. The match started. The massive fighter charged. Sira moved, ducked low, 2 arms catching his clubs mid-strike, 2 more slamming into his knees. He buckled, crashed forward. The lean fighter circled, blades flashing. He slashed at Ethan's throat. Sira's hand shot out, catching the blade. It sliced into her palm, blood welling, but she didn't flinch. She twisted, snapped the blade at its base, slammed her elbow into his jaw. Kara came in low, aiming for Ethan's legs. Sira's foot caught her ribs, sent her sprawling. "You're soft now, Sira," the Crimson Gladiator shouted. "Protecting that human makes you weak." Sira didn't respond, just moved, always keeping herself between Ethan and the fighters. The crowd was screaming, but Ethan couldn't hear individual voices, just noise, just pressure. He wanted to help, wanted to do something, but every time he moved, Sira shoved him back with one arm, keeping him out of range. The massive fighter got up, slower now, and charged again. This time, Sira didn't dodge. She caught the clubs with 2 arms, braced herself, and held. The fighter pushed, muscles straining, augments whining, but Sira held him there, 4 arms locked, feet digging into the sand. The lean fighter saw his chance, sprinted forward, broken blade aimed at Sira's exposed side. Ethan saw it happen, saw the blade coming, saw Sira too focused on the massive fighter to react. He didn't think, just moved, threw himself forward, shoulder first, slamming into the lean fighter's ribs. It felt like hitting a wall. The impact jarred his bones, sent pain shooting through his chest. But the fighter stumbled, the blade missing Sira by inches. The crowd went insane. Sira's head snapped around, her eyes wide. "Ethan!" Kara took the opening. The red-skinned fighter lunged forward, metal teeth bared, going for Sira's throat. One of Sira's arms lashed out, caught Kara by the jaw, slammed her into the sand hard enough to crack bone. Kara didn't get up. The massive fighter staggered back, released, breathing hard. The lean fighter was on the ground, clutching his ribs, gasping. Sira stood there, chest heaving, blood dripping from her palm, her face a mask of fury and fear. "I told you to stay back," she said. "He was going to kill you. And you almost died for it. Better than watching you die." The holographic display above them flickered. A countdown appeared. 30 seconds until detonation. Ethan's wrist burned. He looked down. There was a bracelet there, thin, metallic, with a red light blinking faster and faster. He didn't remember putting it on. Didn't remember. The memory snapped into focus. Foreign's guards checking their gear before the match. One of them clamping something around his wrist. He'd been too terrified to notice. "What the hell is this?" Ethan shouted. Sira's face went white. "A detonator!" The crowd noise shifted. Confusion, excitement, fear. The holographic display showed Ethan's wrist, zoomed in, the blinking light filling the screen. Voron's voice boomed through the arena speakers, calm and amused. "Ladies and gentlemen, an unexpected twist. Our human participant has been equipped with a small insurance policy. 30 seconds. Let's see if love conquers all, shall we?" 25 seconds. Sira grabbed Ethan's wrist, her 4 hands working at the bracelet, trying to pry it off. It didn't budge. Welded shut. No seams. No release mechanism. "There has to be a way to..." "There isn't." Ethan's voice was steady. Too steady. He looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something settle in his chest. Calm. Acceptance. "Get out of here." "No." "Sira." "No." All 4 of her hands grabbed his face, pulling him close, her forehead pressed against his. "I'm not leaving you." 15 seconds. The crowd was chanting now. Some wanted the explosion. Some wanted Voron to stop it. The noise was chaos, formless, brutal. Ethan's mind raced. 30 seconds. No time to run. No time to defuse. No time to... He looked up at the VIP section, at the smoked glass where Voron sat watching. And he had an idea. It was stupid, reckless. The kind of idea that got people killed, but they were already dying. 10 seconds, Ethan pulled away from Sira, stood, and screamed at the top of his lungs. "If this bomb goes off, he kills you too!" His voice cracked, raw, desperate, but the arena's acoustics carried it. The crowd noise dipped, confused. People turning to look at each other. 8 seconds. Look at the blast radius. Ethan pointed at the holographic display, at the technical readout scrolling beside the countdown. Numbers, measurements, yield. It'll take out the first 10 rows. That's 1,000 people. Silence, not total. The noise didn't disappear, but it shifted. Doubt spread through the crowd like infection, faces changing, people looking at the exits, at the guards, at the VIP section. 5 seconds. Sierra caught on. She grabbed the lean fighter, still on the ground, barely conscious, and hauled him up, turning him toward the VIP section. "Tell them," she shouted. "Tell them what Voron does to champions." The fighter's voice was weak, barely audible, but the arena's microphones picked it up. He collars us, kills the winners, keeps us in debt forever. We're not fighters, we're slaves. 3 seconds. The crowd erupted, not with cheers, with rage. People stood, shouting, throwing things at the VIP section. The guards along the walls shifted, uncertain, hands moving to weapons but not drawing them. The energy in the arena changed. No longer entertainment, but something uglier, more dangerous. 2 seconds. Ethan knelt in the sand, pulled the bracelet off his wrist. It still wouldn't budge, and then just extended his arm, the blinking light facing the VIP section like an accusation. "If you want a death," he said quietly, knowing the microphones would carry it, "start with mine." 1 second. The light went green. The bracelet opened, fell into the sand, dead. Ethan stared at it. Then up at the VIP section, where the smoked glass had cracked, not from the explosion but from something inside. Shouting, movement, shadows struggling behind the glass. Voron's voice came through the speakers, strained, panicked. "Ladies and gentlemen, there's been a..." The speakers cut out. The arena held its breath. Then slowly the guards along the walls turned, not toward the crowd, toward the VIP section, their weapons raised. Sierra stood beside Ethan, her forearms still ready, still tense. "What just happened?" "I think," Ethan said slowly, "we started a riot." The arena didn't explode into violence immediately. There was a moment, long, stretched, fragile, where it could have gone either way. The crowd could have turned on the fighters, the guards could have opened fire, Voron could have regained control. But then the VIP section doors burst open, and Voron stumbled out, flanked by 2 guards who weren't escorting him. They were dragging him. His suit was torn. His face was bleeding. Behind him, more guards poured out, their expressions hard, their weapons trained on him, not the crowd. One of them, the same one who'd put the bracelet on Ethan, raised his voice, amplified by the arena's systems. "Voron Cade is under arrest for illegal detention, coercion, and attempted mass murder. This arena is closed pending investigation." The crowd erupted, not with violence but with something almost like relief. Shouting, crying, people hugging each other. Some rushed the exits. Some stayed, watching Voron get dragged away, needing to see it, needing proof. Sierra grabbed Ethan's arm. "We need to leave. Now." "Why?" "Because when the investigators get here, they'll ask questions, and we don't have good answers." She was right. Ethan let her pull him toward the fighter's exit, away from the crowd, away from the chaos. The massive fighter and Kara were already gone, vanished into the tunnels beneath the arena. The lean fighter was being carried out on a stretcher, still unconscious. They moved through corridors lit by emergency lights, past empty holding cells and abandoned equipment. Sierra's hand, one of them, stayed locked around Ethan's wrist, her grip tight enough to bruise. "Did you know?" Ethan asked. "Know what?" "That the guards would turn on him." Sierra didn't answer for a moment. Then, "No, but I hoped." They emerged into the lower docks, where cargo ships and personal transports sat waiting. The air was different here. Cooler, cleaner, the smell of fuel and ozone instead of blood and sweat. Sierra led them to a small ship, barely more than a shuttle, tucked between 2 larger vessels. "Whose is this?" Ethan asked. "Ours. I bought it 3 months ago, just in case." "In case of what?" She looked at him, her golden eyes tired. "In case we needed to run." They boarded. The interior was cramped. 2 seats, a small cargo hold, basic life support. Sierra dropped into the pilot's chair, her 4 hands moving across the controls with practiced ease. The engines hummed to life. "Where are we going?" Ethan asked. "Away. That's not a destination. It's the only one that matters." The ship lifted, slow and careful, navigating through the docking bay's traffic. No one stopped them. No alarm sounded. They slipped out into open space, the station shrinking behind them, becoming just another light in the void. Ethan stared at the viewport. In the reflection, he could see Sierra's face, exhausted, guarded, calculating. "Voron wasn't the first," she said quietly, "and he won't be the last. The colony's systems are built on people like him." Ethan looked at her. "So we just keep running? Until we find somewhere worth stopping." She glanced at the navigation display, then back at him. "Or until we're ready to fight back properly." The words hung in the air. Not a threat, but a promise. 6 weeks later, the Broken Stars bar was different, quieter. The arena below had been shut down, converted into something else. Storage, maybe, or housing. The new station administration was still figuring it out. The bar itself had changed ownership. The old managers replaced by someone who actually cared about health codes and safety regulations. Ethan sat at a corner table, a drink in front of him, untouched. He wasn't covered in grease anymore. His hands were clean, his clothes less worn. He'd found work at a different facility, one that paid better and didn't try to kill him. The nightmares from the arena had faded, though they hadn't disappeared entirely. Sierra stood behind him, leaning against the wall. She wore a mechanic's jacket now, borrowed from Ethan, sleeves cut short to accommodate her forearms. She looked almost relaxed, though her eyes never stopped moving, cataloging threats, tracking exits. The bar wasn't crowded. A few regulars, a handful of workers just off shift, nobody paying attention to anyone else. Peaceful, almost boring. A young woman approached, early 20s, nervous, holding a data pad. "Excuse me, Sierra Kalin?" Sierra looked up. "Yeah, I'm a journalist with the station news service. I was wondering if I could ask you some questions about the arena, about what happened with Voron." "No, it would just be..." I said no. Sierra's voice wasn't harsh, just final. The journalist deflated. "Okay, sorry to bother you." She started to turn away, then hesitated. "Can I just say thank you for what you did? My brother was a fighter. He died 2 years ago in the arena. And knowing that it's over, that no one else has to..." Her voice cracked. "Thank you." She left quickly before Sierra could respond. Ethan watched his wife's face, saw the emotion flicker there. Guilt, grief, something harder to name. "You okay?" "I don't know." Sierra's 4 hands were clenched. "How many people died before we stopped him?" "That's not on you." "Isn't it? I fought for him. I won for him. I helped build that place. And then you helped tear it down." Ethan reached for one of her hands. "You can't change what happened, but you can keep making sure it doesn't happen again." Sierra looked at him, her golden eyes searching. "You really believe that?" "Yeah, I do." She turned her hand over, lacing her fingers with his. On the wall above the bar, a holographic display flickered to life. Newsfeed. Local announcement. Former arena owner Voron Cade sentenced to life imprisonment. Gladiator reform. Bill passes station council below it. A secondary headline. Arena fighters establish independent union. Security contracts offered to former champions. Sierra watched the headline scroll past, her expression carefully neutral. Then she looked away, deliberately turning her back to the screen. "I've been thinking," she said quietly, about what happens next, for us." She pulled Ethan closer, her voice dropping. "I want to start something, a training program, for people who don't know how to fight but need to learn how to protect themselves. Not gladiator training, something different, something that doesn't end in blood." Ethan stared at her. That's a big idea." "I know, and it might not work, but I'm tired of only being defined by what I was." She met his eyes. "I want to build something that helps." "Then do it. I'll help however I can." The music shifted, something slower, softer. A few people were dancing now in the small space the bar provided, bodies moving together in the dim light. "You want to?" Ethan asked. "Want to what?" "Dance." Sierra blinked. "I don't know how." "Neither do I. but everyone else is. And we're supposed to be normal now, remember? A smile tugged at her lips. That's a terrible reason. It's the only one I've got. She stood, pulling him up with her, and they moved to the edge of the dance floor. It was awkward. Sierra's forearms made traditional dancing impossible, and Ethan had never been good at this, even with a partner who had the standard number of limbs. They figured it out slowly, clumsily, her hands resting on his shoulders, his arms around her waist, swaying more than actually dancing. People watched. Some smiled, some whispered. But no one interfered, no one judged, and after a while, Ethan stopped caring about the audience entirely. "This is stupid," Sierra said. "Yep. We look ridiculous. Probably. Why are we doing this?" Ethan pulled her closer, his forehead resting against hers. "Because we can." And that was the truth of it. They were alive. They were free. They'd fought for this. Fought for the right to do something as simple and stupid as dancing badly in a bar on a Saturday night. The song ended. They stopped moving but stayed close, neither one ready to let go yet. "You know what the worst part is?" Sierra said quietly. "What?" "I'm actually happy." She said it like an admission, like something shameful. "After everything, after all the blood and pain and fighting, I'm happy. And I don't know what to do with that." Ethan smiled. "You could just be happy. That's allowed. Is it?" "Yeah." He kissed her forehead. "It is." They returned to their table, and Sierra's expression grew distant, thoughtful. Through the window, construction crews were visible, working on the old arena structure. "If this world ever decides to make a show out of us again," she said quietly, "we'll be ready this time." Ethan followed her gaze. "You really think they'll try? Systems like this don't change overnight, but neither do we." She squeezed his hand. "We know how to fight now, not just in the arena, but for what matters." The walk back to their apartment took 15 minutes. Different route than before, through sectors that were better lit, safer. The station felt less like a trap and more like a place where people actually lived. Their apartment was still small, still cramped, but Ethan had fixed the kitchenette, and Sierra had installed better locks. The window showed the construction crews working through the night. Ethan collapsed onto the sleeping mat. Sierra lay down beside him, her forearms finding their positions. Two under her head, one draped across his chest, one resting at her side. "Do you miss it?" Ethan asked. "The arena. The fighting." Sierra was quiet. "I miss knowing what I was good at. I miss the clarity. In the arena, everything was simple. Win or die. Out here, it's messier, but better." "Yeah." She pressed her forehead against his shoulder. "Better." Sierra took the security work, then started building something more. Within a year, a small training facility opened in the lower sector. Second-hand equipment, 5 students, Sierra teaching them how to protect themselves without becoming killers. The program grew. Word spread. More instructors joined. Kara among them, her metal teeth still sharp, but her methods transformed. People learned to fall without breaking, to block without brutalizing, to fight only as much as necessary and never more. Sierra taught them the language she'd spent years unlearning, strength without cruelty, and slowly the station changed. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. 3 years after Ethan bumped Kara in a bar, the Broken Stars hosted a celebration. The training program's 3rd anniversary. Students and instructors packed the space, along with friends, family, station officials who'd learned to respect what Sierra had built. Ethan and Sierra sat at their corner table, their reserve table, watching the crowd exhausted and content. Someone approached. Ethan tensed instinctively, but Sierra just smiled. It was Kara. She'd changed. Still red-skinned, still scarred, still imposing, but softer somehow. She wore a trainer's jacket identical to Sierra's, her metal teeth catching the light as she grinned. "Mind if I sit?" she asked. Sierra gestured to an empty chair. "Go ahead." Kara sat, folding her hands on the table. "Hell of a thing you've built." "We've built. You're part of it now." "Yeah." Kara's grin widened. "Who would have thought? Me and you teaching kids how to throw punches without trying to kill each other. Stranger things have happened." "Not many." Kara's expression grew serious. "I never apologized. For that first night. I was drunk and angry and looking for a fight. And your husband?" She looked at Ethan. You didn't deserve that. Ethan shrugged. It worked out. Still, I'm sorry. Apology accepted. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Kara stood. I should get back. Just wanted to say thanks for giving me a second chance. You earned it, Sierra said. Kara nodded and disappeared into the crowd. Ethan looked at his wife. You okay? Yeah. Sierra's voice was quiet. I just keep thinking about how different things could have been. If you hadn't bumped her that night, if I hadn't been there, if Vorin had won. But he didn't. No, he didn't. She turned to face him, her golden eyes bright in the dim light. We won. Against everything. Against the odds, against the system, against our own worst instincts. We won. So what do we do now? Sierra smiled. That same sharp, dangerous smile from 3 years ago. But warmer now. Less defensive. We keep winning. She stood, pulling him up with her. Come on, let's dance. We're still terrible at it. I don't care. They moved to the dance floor, 4 arms and 2 finding their awkward, imperfect rhythm, swaying to music that was too loud and too fast for what they were doing. People watched, some smiling, some whispering, but mostly just accepting this as normal. The strange, fierce couple who'd changed the station without meaning to. The music swelled. The crowd moved. The station hummed with life. And in the center of it all, Ethan and Sierra held each other and danced badly and were happy. Not because their story was over, but because they'd finally learned how to write it themselves. Sierra leaned close to Ethan's ear, her voice barely audible over the music. You know what I realized? What? I used to be their weapon. She pulled back slightly, meeting his eyes. Now I teach people how to protect themselves from people like I was. Ethan saw it then, not just acceptance, but transformation. The woman who'd caught a punch in a bar had become someone who taught others they didn't have to throw them. That's who you are now, he said. Yeah, she smiled. It is. He married her to escape war. She protected him because that's what she knew how to do. But somewhere between the first punch and the last dance, they'd built something neither had thought possible, a life worth living, together.